Welcome to the Embody Your Design podcast. I am your host, Amy May, 6'3" emotional manifesting generator. I am obsessed with human design and mindset tools and using them to create a life beyond my wildest dreams. My goal with this podcast is to bring you human design and share stories around how you too can begin to embody your human design. What is talked about in this podcast are the thoughts and opinions of me and my guests. I'm always welcome to feedback should you have any. Thank you for being here, and let's dive in as we embody our human design, one conversation at a time. Okay, you guys, if you have not heard about Anchor by Spotify, it is the easiest way to make a podcast with everything that you need all in one place. This is what I use to create my podcast, and I don't know about you, but I love things that are free, and I have tried other places to make podcasts, and just Anchor makes it so easy because it has the tools to allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. And you can distribute your podcast on all these different listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. And especially me as a PC user, it's easier for me I love Spotify. I'm obsessed with it, but it's easier for me to use like something that isn't just Apple product based. And it's everything that you need to make a podcast all in one place. And it's totally free. So you can download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Oh my gosh, I am super excited for this chat that we're doing. We connected through a group that we're both in. I think it was Julia Wells' Pleasure and Profit Method. Okay, good. I had the group right. I was like, oh my gosh. But Cristina and I we both do human design and wanted to have a chat with each other for both her YouTube channel or possibly like social media, and me for my podcast. And we just connected and everything. And so Cristina she's a 3-5 generator. And this is just we literally just started talking and getting to know each other. And so Cristina, do you want to introduce yourself and what you do and a little bit about what you've learned about your human design?
Yeah, well, as you saw, I'm a 3-5 generator. I actually was confused for a long time because my mom remembered that I was born at 10 a.m. So for a long time, I was a manifesting generator. But she said at 10, my birth certificate, I'm from a Latin country, so they're not exact. It's at 7 p.m. So I was like, I need a birth rectification. So I actually approached a Vedic astrologer, and he did my rectification. And he was like, no, you were born at 3:10. So that changed my design to a generator. And it's funny because I actually struggled with it for a long time because I saw myself as a manifesting generator. And I was like, I can't be a generator. It might not seem like a big shift, but it is, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And actually, it took me a while to process it. Once I did, I could see that I am, in fact, a generator. My son is a manifesting generator. So... And falling into my design helped me so much, you know. It really did. Like I had to make shift accordingly. And I also saw how much I was conditioned to do some things, even thinking that I was a manifesting generator, that weren't aligned with my design. So that was a really interesting thing to see. And in the most case, everything was the same. At the moment, I am a coach. I'm a business energetic coach. What I do is that I do business. I coach women entrepreneurs in business, but mostly around the energetic side. I do use human design, among other things like EFT. I'm learning Reiki, and because what I want, and it's very much aligned with my design, is for women to approach business from their energy, to make their business their own. without having to follow all of these things that we are told we have to do them to be successful. Many times, things that are not even aligned with our energy. But then, like what we were talking before we entered the interview, it's a lot about nature versus nurture, you know? So it's about creating self-awareness and understanding where all of this is coming from, and about embodying and integrating and self-awareness. So it's been an interesting ride. I've only been a coach for about a year and something. I work as a doula and a perinatal educator for almost 6 years. And I've been an entrepreneur for 12. So I'm a tree, and it shows.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Oh my gosh. And that brings up a really interesting point where, you know, when you first learned your human design, you thought you were a manifesting generator. It's almost like when we become aware of something, it does influence us. And I can't remember all the details, but I mean, there's even scientific proof about it. And it's why like manifestation and affirmations work, because our thoughts, you know, influence our reality. And there's so much emphasis on your human design type, where when we look deeper within the chart, it's actually more about, you know, what centers we have defined, what gates we have defined, and all of these little like subtle influences, which do change based on your birth time. And it's very interesting that it took some time to decondition from the conditioning you put on yourself when you thought you were a manifesting generator, and then to now be, oh, well, I'm a generator, and now I see it. That it's very interesting. Is that something that you kind of agree with me about? Like you know, about
totally.
that. Yeah, it's definitely like very interesting. It's interesting for me, and just to introduce myself for, you know, the other listeners who will be, or viewers, more likely viewers. My name is Amy May. I hate defining myself. I call myself the human design librarian because I love human design and I work in a public library, and that's who I am. I'm a 6/3 manifesting generator. I have 8 out of 9 centers defined. My root is my only undefined center, and I am multi-passionate. I'm, you know, definitely that manifesting generator like energy. It's actually shocking that I have been talking about human design consistently for over 2 years now. It's shocking. I'm definitely like hugely multi-passionate. When I first started in the online space, I shifted so much. It was like every few months, I'm going to do this. No, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And what I find interesting is when I first read about my human design, I started with a book, librarian, hello, obsessed with reading. I didn't relate to my design at all. I read this and I was like, this isn't me. What? Like, why is everyone so obsessed with this? But it just kept on coming back. Like, coaches would tell me to look into it. Any program I was in, they had some human design expert come in. And so I finally just began to ask the questions, like, why don't I relate to my design? And that's when I learned about conditioning. And I was heavily conditioned to operate outside my design.
I love that you mentioned that, because this is a conversation that I've had. You know that they always say like your open centers will be the most conditioned. And I've actually found that it doesn't matter if your centers are defined, you will be conditioned too. So
yep.
I love that you mentioned that. Yes. Finally, someone that is just so open about it, because sometimes it's like, no, your defined centers is where it's you, your real you. And I'm like, I'm so conditioned in my defined centers, as conditioned as in my open and undefined centers.
Yes. And primarily what it was is growing up, I was always told that I was too much, that I was too loud, that I was too happy, too excited about things, too younger, like too sexual, too like anything, and too big, like I'm a proud plus size babe, like to just pretty much everything. And I I was conditioned to make myself smaller. And what I've noticed is that the conditioning in defined centers is more around other people maybe telling you that you're too much and just to make yourself small. Whereas with the undefined, it's maybe you're not enough and trying to do more. And I noticed that in my life also. Like, I definitely feel like I'm not doing enough. Like, even though I do a lot,
Yeah.
I always feel like I'm not doing enough. And that comes from that root center pressure.
Yeah.
So,
And and just last week I was doing a deep dive into the heart center.
mhm,
And that one really confronted me because, as you say, I have it defined too,
mhm,
just like you. And supposedly, we are self-worth and all of that. But I'm Latin, and I grew up in a very religious upbringing, not by my mom, but by my surroundings.
mhm,
And that conditioned me so much because you're a woman, you're Latin, so there's certain expectations that they have.
yeah.
And I dimmed my light. I
Mhm,
dimmed it. And it's something that I've been working on for many, many years, even before human design, because I want to be me, fully me, that person that is like you say, like maybe too much for some, but
mhm,
actually it's not. It's just who I am, really my essence. So, but
mhm,
it's been a struggle because it has been so many years of conditioning that you have to be a certain way, that you have to act a certain way, that it's hard even to step into your power. And I do it and then I go back, and I do it and then I go back. And actually, that's one of the reasons my brand is called I Am Poderosa, which means I am powerful.
mhm.
And it's mostly a reminder, a constant reminder that I am powerful.
Mhm. Oh, yeah. Yes. And it's interesting you bring up the religious, because I grew up conservative Christian, and everything from the church is you're not good enough. It's like that we're all sinners, and you're not good, and this guilt and this all of this control over our behaviors. And I've been reading more in the Bible lately, and it's a lot of it is just religious. It's man interpreting these things this way, or this particular way, and it's not necessarily what it says in the religious text. So there's a difference between like a church and like the religion that man creates versus what's actually in the Bible and what God says. Like it's this interpretation. And when we and for whatever reason, it can we could there could be a huge deep conversation about this, but for whatever reason, yeah, a lot of the times, like, women get limited, and women get like, oh, you can't do this kind of thing, like
Yeah.
women can't be powerful, women can't know what they want, they have to follow the man's lead, like
Yeah.
especially in like a marriage and everything. And it's very interesting because um that's not how everyone was created.
Mm-hmm.
uh, I've been, I'm single, and I've been going out in the dating world, and one of the guys that I've been, talking to and dating, like, he would much rather have the women be like more aggressive and like take the initiative more and be like that more masculine influence. And that's how I naturally operate. Is I like to, like, if I want something, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna go, take action. If I feel that
Mm-hmm.
nudge, I'm gonna go take that action. I'm not gonna sit back and wait for somebody else to give it to me or something. Like, I'm gonna just put it out there. And it's interesting, and it's not necessarily about what society or whoever dictates. It's really about like what works for each individual person. And that's what I love about human design. And it brings each of us back to who we naturally are and how we like naturally operate, and just releasing all that deconditioning that there so many people have put on us,
and reconnecting with ourselves too, because the thing is, and it's, I mean, I love human design, but I also know that at some points, some things we can't go there yet. So it's kind of accepting the limitations for whatever reasons, and just letting it flow, let it go, like not fixate in certain things. So more of a holistic approach. And also, I think, like when you mentioned knowing your type is not everything, Profiles are just as interesting. Incarnation cross is just as interesting. Your North Node, there are so many things that you can take from it, and take what serves you. Be aware that you might be coming up to resistances, but let it flow. You don't have to solve things in this minute.
Exactly.
Use it as a way, a tool for self-growth. So actually, it's a never-ending journey.
Exactly. And I don't know if you've ever looked into the gene keys, which is
another ball game.
Yes, it is. But what I love about, the gene keys, and I have not gone into all of them. I mean, I've done a brief overview of all of them. I'm technically like certified to be able to do readings in it, but yeah, but it is a lifelong journey. But what I love about what I learned from the gene keys is that it's about like contemplation. It is about getting curious with what you're reading or what you're listening to, or even in like a human design reading session with somebody. It's about like getting curious and how am I for generator types? Like, how am I responding to this? How does this feel in my body? Where do I see this playing out in my life? Like, that's, I started to take the gene keys approach to what I've been looking at like within my design. And I go back to different readings that I've had, or the programs that I've taken, or books, and I just sit with it. And I was like, ooh, that's interesting how that played out. And I encourage my clients to do the same, because it's so powerful to just be able to like sit back and contemplate, and just bringing awareness, because that awareness and that like thought process, that's going to facilitate change in your life.
Yeah, it's just, it's like where we are right now at this moment, that is the 25th of March of 2022. We'll be in a whole different place the 25th of March 2023. So things will hit differently, especially when you are in this self-growth journey. And there are so many places to go. Recently, I had, for my birthday actually, which was in February, I had a Gene Keys human design reading, a combined reading. And it was really, I haven't gone into Gene Keys because I tend to go all in. I have the gate of depth. So I'm like, let me learn it all. So I'm like, no, at this moment, I don't want to go there. But it was really interesting, and I'm just percolating things, like leaving it there, and things will come along the way that will make me go like, oh, so this is it. And it's part of the journey, I feel. And if we bring it back to coaching, I mean, there are many things that we can resolve in one session or in a program or whatever. But the more you do, the more you grow, the more things shift.
Yeah.
And giving ourselves permission to go in different journeys. We met in Julia Wells, which is something that last year was very much like, I need joy in my life. I need joy in my life. I'm searching for joy because I don't have joy. And when I heard her the first time, I was like, oh, it's not joy, it's pleasure.
Yes.
I thought it was joy, but it was actually pleasure what I was missing with my life, from my life. And it's been eye-opening to be with her, really. And it's challenging because some things are challenging. It's my first time in a space like this. So of course it's like, but I'm very open to confront my resistances.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Julia she's so amazing. And what is so interesting, and kind of bringing it back to me getting, I guess I get like shocked sometimes when I hear about people's human design types. She's a projector, and like just the focus on like pussy and pleasure and that like very sexual energy. Like if I was just thinking about human design types, I'd be like, yeah, generator type,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
because of the sacral. But really, she's just gotten so in tune with how her body is and like her pleasure, that it doesn't matter like what type you are. Like you know, you're in alignment. It's great, it's beautiful. And she's incredible. And anyone like listening or watching, like definitely like follow follow Julia if you're like
Yeah.
struggling with that pleasure and that like joy practice, because it really does. It's all about like coming back to your body and
Yeah.
connecting with yourself.
And from what you say, also challenge everything, no matter if you feel it's right, because I feel human design is right. Like I love it. And I love to look at charts and, you know, talk to clients with it. But even my own chart, I challenge it. Like how is this showing up at this moment? How could it show up? Maybe if I do deeper work in this, will it change? Because I like that. It's kind of like, I think in English, you say, take things with a grain of salt. And understanding that if it shows one way for you doesn't mean that it will show the same way for everybody.
Yes. And, you know, I always say when I talk about human design, it's not enough to just know it intellectually. It's about how do you embody it? How are you using it in your life? And a lot of the times within like human design containers, there, because it's so much intellectually, that there's not a lot of like programs or support containers that are accessible, in my opinion, that allow for that support. And you know, I see other human design readers where I've seen them charge like over $1,000 for a reading, and it's like huge. It's like takes hours. It's like a whole, yeah, like a 2 or 3 hour thing, which yeah, it takes that long to go over the entire chart. And it's just so much information. But there's not a lot where it's just I need a support container where I can ask questions, you know, as they come up within my human design, as I'm like, you know, with business as an example, like I'm launching, and how do I be in alignment with my human design during this launch? Like this is coming up, and how can I use like my human design to feel good? Like I use the word in alignment, out of alignment, but essentially it's like, how can I feel really good about this? Or how can I move away from the things that feel frustrating, or like the bitterness, using the non-self-theme language in here, or like the anger, disappointment, or whatever. And how can I move into this satisfying, this peace, this successful kind of feeling?
Which is one of the reasons that I have. Yesterday a friend sent me, she's an emotional generator, and we're trying to, and I say trying because we're trying to do TikTok videos, you know? And I love them. I love to talk and do things with my voice, and she does too. But then she sent me a video and it was like, you should post 2 times a week and then do a story 3 times a week. And I was like, no, you know, that kills my joy. It sucks the life out of me. Like, don't give me anything like that. And for some people, it's great, but it's understanding that not everything is for you. So it's actually, it's not just staying with some things, you know. And I was looking at your page that you do also variables, which I don't go into, but some people really need that structure. Great, but many don't. So it's also understanding, do you want to and do you need them, and do they move you forward or do they make you feel wrong?
Yeah.
So not do something just because someone says that it works and it worked for them. And it might have worked for them because it's very aligned to their design. So it's very much about experimenting, which I'm pretty sure that you do a lot.
I do. Oh my gosh. I learned by doing. And I'm messy, and what I've learned within my business is I don't like to launch something twice. I pretty much just, I put something out, I run a program once, and then it's just boom. That creative cycle is done for me. The joy isn't really there anymore. And so I don't do it. And what I've been resisting is because I hate the languaging of, oh, you need to invest now because you don't know when it's going to happen again. And to me, it feels like it puts pressure on people. But with me, I'm like, oh, this is actually kind of true, because I probably won't launch something like that ever again, because the joy and that satisfaction is done, like that, and that creative cycle is done for me. I'm done creating it. Like, I definitely sell evergreen or like self-paced for anything I've created before, but that like live, that and I actually, like, when people attend live with me, I personalize it to them, to the questions that they have, to what they're seeking. And so it is really powerful when people come in a live program with me, because it is very much like tailored to them. And I just trust that anybody who invests afterwards, that they're going to get what they need out of it. It's still incredibly powerful, but there is some like resistance to everything. And it's about getting to know yourself. And we both have that like 3-line, that like, experiment and everything. And it's allowing yourself to pay attention to what feels good and what doesn't, and then taking those lessons and moving on.
Yeah, I remember many years ago, without knowing, I was living very much in alignment, and I can see it. Like when I look back, I'm like, yes, it like things flow, and and I went off course, and now I'm coming back into course, and life happens,
Yeah.
But it's been very interesting allowing myself to experiment, and I need to experiment it. I need to do it. It's not thinking about it. I need to do it to see if it feels right. And it can be frustrating, because it's just sometimes I'm like, why? It's just like experimenting all the time. But then I reframe that, because I love actually doing different things all the time. It's entertaining. And I love that energy. Like for you, I love the energy that people bring, because I'm responding to them and to their needs. So this desire to have everything solved doesn't come from me. It comes from this conditioning that by my age, I should be doing this and living with these circumstances, So accepting and easing into that experimentation has been mind-blowing. It has really allowed me to enjoy that things will be different.
Mm-hmm.
I won't lie, every now and then I get, like, oh, really? Like, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I feel that, and it's we briefly touched on this before I hit record. Is I'm a 6'3", and I'm in my mid 30s, and it's like, oh, when you hit 30, like you're supposed to, like, as a 6, like have things like more figured out, and like you're on the roof. Like, actually, when I in my 30s, that's when all this shit hit the fan in my life, actually. And I very much feel like it's the hot mess, like, oh my gosh, all these things are crumbling all around me, and everything is just like falling apart when I'm in my 30s. And now this is where I'm gaining that wisdom, like right now in these moments where I am, getting into the like personal development, and just wanting to show up for me, and everything that I've gone through. And so every person is unique and different, and it all shows up differently. I know another 6 line, like a 6'2", one of my human design mentors, Eden Carpenter, like she's not even 30 yet, and she's just so mature and so wise already. And within like traditional human design, to be like, oh, she's supposed to be a hot mess, and like all the things like falling apart, but that's
Exactly.
not how it is.
Exactly. Like it shows up differently for everybody at different points of our life. And I think it does have a lot to do with what we're living through in that moment, the culture that we're living in, the conditions that we're living in. I mean, not everybody will be open to, I talk to everybody about human design, but not everybody is open to human design, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I accept that because it's not their journey. It's my journey that I want to share, but if they're not open to it, then I very much respect that, because not everybody will be open to that. Yeah. Maybe they will in the future, maybe they won't. But it's kind of like planting seeds. Maybe, and it has happened to me. Like I've dropped seeds, and then someone comes to me and they're like, oh, you remember that time that we spoke about this? And I'm like, yeah, okay. And we can go as deep or not as people want, because I found that for some people are all in, like me, like they want to know more, but others are like, just, I'm fine with my type, type, strategy, authority, that's it. That's the only thing that I want. And it's okay too, because at the end of the day, especially as coaches, it's their journey. It's not our journey. So they will go where they want to go. And we can't do much about it.
Yeah. And I've noticed when you are really truly embodied in your strategy and authority, everything else kind of falls into place. When you're really following that, the strategy, and paying attention to the signature and non-self themes. Like I don't know where I lump that in with everything, but it's that, like with generators, that frustration, and really like paying attention to that, and contemplating, like looking at, where does this come from? How can I learn from this? That is really going to help, like when maybe eventually down the line you do look at like your gates, or maybe within like the variables, the personal health system, like looking at things, like you may be more just naturally in alignment with it. You'll just be like, yep, okay, I see this, I see how this energy plays into things. Okay, all right, it looks different now because we had a little internet crash, and so it's all good. This happens for people on my podcast. That I have dealt with so many technological issues since the launching of this, so it's a little bumpy, but that's okay. But you know, we were just talking about like human design support, and this maybe like for people with the defined sacral, like the generator types, but like this desire for an exchange, like when we're getting support, and especially within like human design, it's like this, it's the like the response, and like wanting like an interaction, and for support and for coaching and for guidance, and that there's sometimes it's almost like we don't always know where to go for that support. And we often see, or at least maybe it's just a me thing, but you know, we see all these high-end coaches, and their support is like way outside of our budgets and everything. But it's very interesting to, you know, we were just talking about, there is like a like Cristina said, words are escaping me right now, but about a human design membership that she's a part of, where it's like around, like I think she said $47 a month, where you do get like weekly like coaching support in human design.
It actually, it's not coaching per se, it's you have to experience it, and I will encourage anybody to experience it, because it's like they give you a lot of information and they allow the interaction, but it's just, I feel that it goes very deep, and it's something that I crave, because I do love the informational exchange, but also the allowing you to go beyond what the book says, you know, because, and it happens sometimes when you, and I know it happens for you, like when you look at a chart of someone, if you only stay with the chart, yeah, but how about looking holistically, you know, at everything? So, and doing that exchange, like how does it show up for you? How is it showing up for you? How you can embody it? How meditation's directed towards that? So I feel, especially for people that are really excited about human design, you need that support, because I mean, you could do it alone. Yes, you can do many things alone, but how great is it to have a support system?
Yes. And like something came up as you were talking, you know, one of my one-on-one clients that I worked with, she primarily learned in her human design through purchasing books and going on the internet and finding information. I think she's a 1-3, so that one investigative line. And you know, there were a lot of conversations that we had, and like we talked about how she could actually take what she was learning, because you can like get a lot of information online. Like freedom of information, the librarian to me is like, yes, like access to all the information, but what are you going to do with it? How are you using this? How are you integrating it into your body and into your soul? And one of my favorite sessions that I ever did was or one that I received, I should say, is someone did like a human design like Reiki healing session on me. And it was like she got my chart and just did a Reiki healing, and you know, was able to like see certain things and see like certain blockages and stuff. And it was incredible to see like those two modalities infused. And I've seen like a handful of people like offer it again, but it just has never felt like aligned. But this particular person, it was a one-time thing. She's a Manny Jen, like Manny Jen in her experiment and everything. But it's so beautiful to be able to, what you talked about, like look at like the bigger picture and bringing in some of these like like it's like a holistic approach, like not just look at human design, but look at like how we can integrate it with like Reiki or like money mindset or manifestation. Those
Yeah.
are some of my favorite applications to actually begin to use and integrate this in your life.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's one of the reasons, because I consider myself a coach first, and then I use human design as a tool.
Mm-hmm.
And lately I've been learning EFT, and there
Mm-hmm.
are so many things in my mind right now, creations of EFT, and I'm learning Reiki too. And because it's not one thing, because we don't need one thing. What you might need is different from what I need, and is different from what somebody else. So I need this interaction. I need it fulfills me to have interaction. For me, it's very hard to do it by myself. I
Mm-hmm.
enjoy responding, and I enjoy interacting, and I get so much. That I once heard a coach said, when I coach, I am coached.
Mm-hmm.
I love that, because so many times it has come up for me that I'm coaching someone on something, and whatever it is, it resonates with me.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And it's a feeling that it's the best feeling in the world, actually, because you're helping someone, and at the end of the day, you're also helping yourself.
Yes. Yeah. And, you know, about a year ago, I went through not officially like a Reiki one, but learned a little bit about Reiki. And one of the things that I learned was that when you're doing like a Reiki healing session from someone, you're also receiving that healing. And
Yeah.
it's because you're the channel. It's like coming through you and going to the other person. And so again, it's just this, okay, it's not just for the other person, but it's also like helping and aiding me. It's all the energy like flowing through us, and it's incredibly
That
beautiful.
change is so
Yeah.
important, and it's one of the reasons that for me, for example, it's very important to work with people that I feel aligned with.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of the reasons that I don't chase, not following. Well, I don't chase, I attract, and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But also,
Yes.
it's exactly that. I don't like to work with people that I have to convince to work with me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very sensitive to the energetic exchange, and I enjoy the energetic exchange. So I want to work with people that really want to work with me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. And this is a huge thing, because a lot of there's some big name like business coaches that I've worked with or taken programs from, and there's like this art of influence, and there's this like, I need to convince people to work with me energy, and like this, oh, like using sales psychology to like get people to invest. But within that, it's not allowing other people to trust in themselves. Where within human design, or at least the way that I learned human design through Eden, and what I truly believe, it's really about me, and about like guiding you and being empowered in yourself, so that you can make the decisions, and so that you can be empowered to say no or to say yes. And it's getting rid of this like convincing, this like influential energy and everything, and it's coming back to like, let's just work with soul aligned clients, and let's just believe and decide that we're just going to work with people who are all in, that it's not um oh, I need to like follow up and like, make sure that you invest with me and whatever. Like, I've had some people say no to me for human design readings, and they're like, oh, I went with this other person. I'm like, yeah, great. I guided a person in her human design authority, and she wasn't sure which human design coach to work with. She ended up not working with me, but she sent me like a thank you, like, thank you for giving me guidance and the affirmation to trust in myself and my own authority. And that, oh my gosh, that like warmed my heart so much
I
more.
love that you mentioned that, because,
Yeah.
you know, a no to me is a yes to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if I want you to be empowered, then I have to be okay with that decision. And it's not that I have to, I am okay with your decision. Because at the end of the day, empower women, empower women.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, exactly. Like it's about empowering the other person. And it's about like let's get rid of this like this icky type energy, and let's come back to learning to trust in yourself, which is like what I'm talking all about on all my socials, because I'm doing a program focused on like your human design authority, because I'm like, yeah, like let's get with the basics, let's get with the foundation first. And yes, it's gonna have like deeper levels of stuff because there's so much involved like with everything, but it's just what I'm on fire to talk about right now is the human design authority. It is all about like learning to trust in yourself and your own instincts.
Yeah.
And your own natural decision making process versus what everybody else is telling you to do.
Exactly. And that is very important. And I see it, and you know, when we think about us as businesswomen, because I feel that my exploration of human design has also had a big impact in me as a woman, and in me as a mother, because I also parent by design. You know? And my son is a pure manifesting generator, 5-1.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. With a defined heart and an open G center, and defined head, defined Anya. So it's been interesting to see how it shows up for him, and also allowing himself to be him, you know, knowing that I am also influencing him. You can't help it, because my defined colors will influence him, and the channels and all of that. But at the end of the day, accepting him for who he is. But it has allowed me to feel balance between my work, because I am my business. You know, my business is mine, but I'm also my business. And it's made me feel that I can have the business that I want, and that works for me and my design, and it works for my family. I don't have to follow other people. And I do, to experiment. You know, sometimes I do things just because to see if it works for me. And then I'm like, And I'm like, is it or is it a resistance? And I explore it, you know? But then when it's like it's a no for me, it's a no.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And, you know, something that I realized that I was doing is I was resisting, or I was saying no to things simply because of what someone said my human design would be, when it was actually resistance. And I'm playing around with it in this, and like I'm doing a launch right now, and I have in the past like resisted like talking about the same thing over and over and over again, or like, yeah, like something like pretty like narrow and specific. But I'm on finishing up week 2 of just talking about human design authority, and it's like, oh, it's resistance, but it's not a no for me. It's definitely resistance, because when I sit with it and when I work through it, I'll get this like random burst of like, oh my gosh, I'm going to create a reel and say this. I'm going to create like, you know, have fun with this. Like I get that fire, I get that excitement. So it was definitely resistance, and it's all about playing around.
Yes. And at the end of the day, you know, it's not only the trees that experiment.
Yeah.
We should all experiment, because the thing that if we go back to the not self and the shadows and the conditioning, there are many things that we need to work on. So it's not only the 3s or the 6s before their Saturn return that need to experiment. We should all experiment and challenge ourselves. And I feel that that's where coaching and having someone coach you is key, because they can, with their coaching, they challenged you. And
it's almost like the 3 lines. We're here to guide or like show people, lead people in that experimentation, not be the only ones experimenting, but almost like giving people evidence and giving people permission to experiment also.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. Yep.
Oh my gosh. I feel like we could be talking forever and ever and ever about this, but like, so for anyone who is listening, like for the podcast version or watching, like how can people get in touch with you on your social media and everything?
Well, I have an Instagram account. I'm not that constant, I have to admit, but I'm there. It's called iampoderosa.coaching, and I have a website that is called iampoderosa.com. I mean, you can find me in any of those places. And yeah, I mean, I'm doing at this moment, I'm preparing for a launch. I'm preparing because I want to do a business accelerator program for businesswomen that want to have consistency either in income, but also in how they show up for themselves by respecting their energy. So it's about following their design in the business sense.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. That's gonna be so powerful when it comes up. And I'm so excited, and I know you'll probably be posting in the pleasure and profit method group, so I'll hear about it. But
I'm very excited about that, because I feel that it's much needed to have to learn how to respect our energy and still show up very powerfully.
Yes. And then for anybody who's watching, people who are listening on my podcast, you know where to find me. But for anybody who's watching, I am on Instagram. I am at _HD_librarian on Instagram. My website is theamymae.com. I know not the same, because my Instagram changes all the time. But yeah, I am definitely check out my Instagram if you are interested in really diving into your human design authority. Like I mentioned, that's the focus of my launch right now. And I would love to help you get grounded in that. And it's different than human design and business, so it's always different. But I just want to thank you for agreeing to do this. This was so much fun.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Want to dive even deeper? I invite you to get your Human Design Abundance Blueprint. In this blueprint, you will receive a personalized breakdown of your human design chart and how to use it to be your most abundant self. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. As a special thank you, you can send your screenshot of the review to theamymae@gmail.com, and my team will send you a little gift. All the details are in the show notes. I invite you to tag me on Instagram at _HD_librarian with your favorite part of this episode. Thanks again for listening, and see you in the next episode.